Okay, today's lesson is lesson 4.1a, graphing quadratic functions. Our goal today in this lesson is basically we're going to learn how to graph a quadratic function, some of the main important parts of that. You can see this goes along with our standard 2, 3b, in which we're going to be graphing quadratic functions, identifying the x and y intercepts, maximum, minimum values, using various methods and tools, which may include graphing calculators. Okay, quadratic function is basically a function in which x is to the second power. All right, no higher, no lower. So you can see that right here we have a quadratic function. All right, some things that you want to look at on your quadratic function are, first of all, the thing in front of x squared. That is called our quadratic term. The thing in front of x is our linear term, and that thing at the end, that number at the end, is your constant term. All right, so in front of x squared you have a, in front of x you have b, and at the end you have c. When graphed, these things will graph what's called a parabola. Okay, some important parts of the parabola that we want to look at is, first of all, we want to look at the axis of symmetry. Sorry about that. All right, the axis of symmetry will be the line that the parabola is centered around. Okay? Another part that's very important is the vertex. The vertex is either at the bottom or it'll be at the top if your parabola is upside down. Okay? And the second thing, notice that when we look at this parabola, notice that points B and points C are both the same distance from our axis of symmetry. All right, that's because one half is symmetric to the other half. Okay, let's get started with a little bit of graphing. When we're graphing, first of all, the y-intercept is always going to be the point right here. If x is 0, then we're going to get our y-intercept. Notice what that means is that the number at the end is going to be our y-intercept. Okay, the equation for the axis of symmetry is another important part. The equation of the axis of symmetry is this equation right there. So, very important, that equation. Okay, and the x-coordinate of the vertex is going to be basically this part of the equation for the axis of symmetry. I think the best way to do this is just to go through and do problem number 1 for you, okay? Here's some step-by-step directions on how to do it. You can pause the video and take a look at those. I'm going to lead you through problem number or exercise number 1. Okay, the first thing we need to do is find the y-intercept. Okay, find the y-intercept. Very simple. Our y-intercept is this last number. Okay, that's going to cross the y-axis at 8. Okay, next we want to go through and we want to find the equation of the axis of symmetry. Remember, your equation is x equals negative b over 2a. Now, when I'm looking at this equation, all right, b is 6, and a is the number in front of x squared. In this case, that number is going to be a 1 because you can't see it, it's a 1. So let's plug these numbers into the equation. Negative b, which is 6, over 2 times a, which is 1, which gets us a negative 6 over 2, which is negative 3. So our equation for the axis of symmetry is x equals negative 3. All right, now the last part of this is to find the x-coordinates of our the x-coordinate of the vertex. Okay, that x-coordinate is going to be where this number starts off right there. And one moment, please. Okay, back to where we were. Now we're going to find the y value for this x-coordinate for the vertex right there. Okay, so the y value on that is going to be basically what we get when we take this negative 3 right here, and what we're going to do with that negative 3 is we're going to substitute it into the equation and everywhere that we see an x. All right, so what I've got are x squared becomes negative 3 squared then plus 6x becomes plus 6 times negative 3, and then I've got my plus 8. I'll evaluate this. Negative 3 squared is 9, plus 6 times negative 3 is minus 18, plus 8. 9 minus 18 is negative 9, plus 8 is negative 1. Excuse me. So now I'm going to take that value of negative 1 and I'm going to put it right over here. Okay? And that's going to be our the coordinates of the vertex. Now, this will also take, and I will move this now over to the chart to the middle, so that I can get everything that I need to graph. Negative 3, negative 1. That's my x and my y numbers. Okay, now I'm going to build around that negative 3. In other words, I'm going to go to negative 4, negative 5, negative 2, and negative 1. Build around that and do the same thing with the negative 2 and the negative 1 and the negative 4 and the negative 5 as I did to find my this one right here. So next I'm going to do f of negative 2. In other words, all of my x's are replaced with a negative 2. This is negative 2 squared plus 6 times negative 2 plus 8, which gives me 4 minus 12 plus 8. 4 minus 12 is negative 8, plus 8 is 0. So negative 2 has a 0. Now I'll go for negative 1. F of negative 1 is negative 1 squared plus 6 times negative 1, plus 8. Negative 1 squared is 1, minus 6 plus 8. Negative 5 plus 8 is 3. Now, because of the nature of what we're doing here, the axis of symmetry right here translates to our vertex. I also know that this 0 is going to coincide with this point. And furthermore, I know that this 3 is going to coincide with this point. Now, that only works because what I've done is I've made sure that around my vertex, these are equal distances. They're 1 away, they're 2 away. That's the only way I can do this half matching that half. Once you're done with that, all the hard work is done. We're simply going to take and graph these now. All right, we'll go with our first one, negative 5 graphs to 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Next one, negative 4 graphs to 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. Graphs to 0. The next one, negative 3 graphs to negative 1. 1, 2, 3, negative 1. Negative 2 graphs to 0. And negative 1 graphs to 3. We have our points now. Ready to graph it. Please excuse my lack of artistic ability as I'm graphing this. Try to do the best I can. Be sure when you're graphing this, it's a smooth curve, not a pointy, line thing that's going to be, you want it looking as well as you can. Okay, so that's how we go through and we graph a parabola. All right, we'll move on tomorrow to identify some key parts of this parabola.